There's a lot of talk of Lakshadweep versus the Maldives, cancel Maldives, let's go to Lakshadweep. But how much of this is actually based on reality? Remember, Lakshadweep has very basic tourism infrastructure. I've spent a few days over there, I've been scuba diving around the islands. It doesn't compare with the Maldives at this time. In terms of scenic beauty, it most certainly does. In terms of tourism infrastructure, it doesn't. So what will it take to build up Lakshadweep in a way that is classy, which takes care of conservation, which is environmentally friendly, and yet not so badly done that it starts looking like Juhu Chowpatty? It shouldn't get messed up. How do we ensure that Lakshadweep retains the natural beauty of Lakshadweep, and can it one day compete with the Maldives? And how many years down the road is that? It can't happen in a matter of months, but if we work systematically over a period of time, this can be done. To talk about this, I'm joined on the broadcast by Prashant Pitti, co-founder at Ease My Trip. Remember, he went viral in the morning when he said that they would not be taking any bookings for the Maldives and wanted people to go to Lakshadweep. So we'll ask him some questions about how prepared is Lakshadweep for the new interest and for all those tourists who want to get there. We're also joined by Ambassador Ashok Sajjanar, well-known former diplomat. We have with us Bharti Chaturvedi, founder and director of Chintan Environmental Research and Action Group. Remember, there are lots of environmentalists who are very concerned that if Lakshadweep just takes off in an unplanned fashion, it could be an ecologically disastrous situation. So what are the precautions we need to take? Why are some of the ideas that are being bandied about at this time very dangerous for the sensitive corals in the area? How we need to be very careful, so Bharti can talk about that. If you've got a lot of actors, influencers saying, cancel Maldives, we're not going to go to the Maldives. Is that for real, or is that just a attempt to flow with the tide, as it were? Rohan Gandotra joins us. Poonam Pandey is a well-known model. She said that she was having a shoot planned out in the Maldives. She's decided to cancel that. So we'll talk to them as well. So let me go across to Prashant Pitti first. You're saying no Maldives, yes to Lakshadweep. I was speaking to the administrator of Lakshadweep. At this moment, there are only 300 rooms, not 300 hotels, 300 rooms across all the islands of the Lakshadweep. So what are you even talking about?
No, Rahul, firstly, thank you for having me on the show. Rahul, you're absolutely right. There is very basic infrastructure available on Lakshadweep. But the decision which we have taken, which is basically to suspend all the future bookings on Ease My Trip portal. Ease My Trip is the second largest travel portal in the country.
How many bookings did you
have? Almost about 20 to 25% of all the bookings which happen online is through Ease My Trip, Rahul. And last year,
how many bookings do you have for the Maldives?
As I said, that it's usually anywhere between 20 to 25%, and 3 lakh people travel to Maldives last year.
So how many have you cancelled?
We are not cancelling any. What we are saying is that from today onwards, no further bookings will be made on Ease My Trip related to Maldives.
And why have you done it? Is it a publicity stunt, or why are you doing this?
So, Rahul, of course, this is going to be, and there is going to be a revenue loss, which we are going through this. So this is basically purely from the sentiment of why should we give business to the country, which is showing so much of animosity towards India. Without any provocation, multiple of their representatives, MPs have said derogatory things about India and the PM. Plus, they have also run the campaign in the past, India out. So it's very clear, a country who doesn't really care about our business, why should we provide business to them?
So now you're talking about some kind of an MOU with Lakshadweep Tourism. But your bookings are here and now. Building up Lakshadweep, how long do you think that might take?
It will take time. It's going to be a long haul. We are also in touch with various airlines to actually first start the connectivity between the mainland India and the Lakshadweep. There are barely any flights to Lakshadweep right now. But our endeavor is not just to promote Lakshadweep, but there are so many other pristine beach locations out in India. For example, there is a place called as Mararikulam. Not many people are aware about it. It's a fisherman's town, beautiful location, must have at least 5,000 rooms available over there, but people aren't aware about it. Then there is Andamans as well, which is beautiful out there, as stunning as any other location could be. So there are multiple positions, multiple places which are available out in India where people can spend their hard-earned money while continuing to retain their dignity. as any self-respecting country, citizen, we thought that this was too much for a country to show animosity towards us without any
Okay.
provocation.
Ashok Sajjanar, as a former diplomat, this pushback that we're seeing from the Ministry of External Affairs, the High Commissioner of the Maldives being summoned, being given presumably a dressing down, we don't have the specifics, but obviously India conveyed displeasure at the manner in which some of their ministers and MPs had spoken out against India after the Prime Minister went to the Lakshadweep. Do you think this is following the right strategy? Are we pressing the right buttons? Because the president of the Maldives at this time is in China on a 5-day visit. Could we be pushing an important neighbor, especially in the context of China trying to encircle us in the Indian Ocean? Could we be pushing them further into Beijing's grasp?
No, thank you very much, Rahul, for having me on your show. I don't think so. I think we had to draw some red lines, and those red lines have been drawn. You would recall that when this whole thing erupted yesterday, our High Commissioner had raised the issue with the Maldivian Foreign Office. You would have seen that the Maldivian Foreign Office very quickly came up with a statement saying, completely disassociating the government from whatever has been stated by these three low-level ministers, deputy ministers, saying that, the freedom of speech does not extend to spreading hate. Also, they should not be doing something that spoils relations with other friendly countries. You would have seen that there have been huge number of voices in Maldives, whether it is from the former Foreign Minister Abdullah Shahid, former President Mohammad Nasheed, also one of the MPs, women MPs, who's demanded that Maldives should seek an apology from India. So, India has friends in Maldives. Let's not forget that. 45% of the population that voted for Ibrahim Soli in the elections, that was basically for India. So the point I'm making is that we had to tell them what are the red lines, and I'm happy that they have taken corrective action. They have taken corrective measure very quickly. They have suspended these three ministers. Of course, the China challenge continues to be there, but I think that is at a different level that we have to deal with. We'll have to continue to deal with. But very soon, I'm confident, Rahul, that Maldives and President Moizu is going to realize that they do not have any alternative but to have good.
What makes you so confident? He was elected on a pro-China, anti-India agenda. He did get elected to power, so you can say, till I'm in power, this is the agenda that got me voted to power.
Yeah, but, if you recall the meeting that he had with Prime Minister Modi in Dubai on the 1st of December, there are two issues. One is they are not going to renew the hydrographic agreement. Then there are 77 maintenance Navy personnel for the 3 aircraft we have given. Now they said, okay, we are going to set up a committee to see how these 77 people from India, what they call defense personnel, that they can leave. So I think they have also come to realize that whenever Maldives has needed anything, whenever Maldives has been with its back to the wall, there is no other country but India which has come to their rescue, whether it is during COVID, whether it is to supply water in 2014, whether it was tsunami, whether it was against the coup in 1988. I think they realize that. So, there is something that you say when elections are going on, elections are taking place, but once the heat of the elections, that has gone away.
And as you see in that visualization compiled by the India Trade Data Intelligence Unit, there's also a lot of commerce that's involved. Ultimately, Indian tourists contribute the maximum to the Maldivian economy, and the maximum number of tourists that Maldives gets at this moment. Earlier, it used to be China, but the maximum number of tourists Maldives is getting at this moment come from India, more than 11% of the total. Earlier, if you look back in 2012 and 11, you would have seen that China was the number one country. China has now dropped off the radar, and India, which earlier wasn't even in the top 5, was way down, has now bounced up to number 1. In 2015, it entered the top 5, and after that, as that graph moves along, you will see how India keeps jumping year after year in terms of the number of tourists we are sending to the Maldives. Went up to number 2 in 2019, and post the pandemic, we just kind of went way ahead. And that's the way the tally stands at this moment. India at number 1, Russia at number 2, and all other countries much lesser, and China now dropping off. So China is actually contributing much lesser than it used to previously, and India contributing the maximum. I want to go across to Poonam Pandey. Poonam, do you want to tell our viewers about what is it that you were going to shoot in the Maldives? Why did you decide to cancel?
I had a music video which I was supposed to shoot at the end of this month. Yesterday I was out with my parents, and the moment I came home and I started reading about this news, and the moment I saw that, I backed up. I mean, those comments that those amazing people have made, it's ridiculous.
So now you're planning to go to Lakshadweep?
Of course, yes. In fact, we are planning to film there now.
But you do know that there's only one flight to the Lakshadweep and there's hardly any accommodation, and especially all the influencer videos that we see in those fancy resorts in the Maldives, there's nothing similar. I've spent quite a few days in the Lakshadweep. There's nothing similar. If you love scuba diving or snorkeling, of course, you'd have a great time. But in terms of the fanciness of the resort or the food, everything else that goes with it, it's very, very basic.
See, Maldives was also, it took time, to build things. I mean, everything. And it's the economy that we have built, we've contributed in a very big way. So, agar wo same cheez hum hamare Lakshadweep mein karenge, to, we can have, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Taj has already, put in a word that they are going to build something. So, of course, it's going to take time, but I mean, the pizza in Maldives, which is, I think, 5,000 rupees. So it's better to eat in our country.
Okay, so Rohan Gandotra, we've seen from Amitabh Bachchan to Ranveer Singh, even Salman Khan jumping in. They all are saying Lakshadweep, chalo. But the question is, go where? Because there is no, at this moment, infrastructure to support all these stars reaching there. So what are you planning?
See, you know what, even before firstly, thank you, Rahul, for having me on the show. So I was saying, even before this whole fiasco happened, I had gone to Maldives last year only. And while I was planning my trip to Maldives, I had planned for Lakshadweep also. But then I Googled how to reach Lakshadweep. So you have to go to Kochi, you have to get a permit, you have to then fly only one flight, and then you have to pack light to travel to Lakshadweep. And then I've seen the resort, so I dropped my plan. But today, after a year and a half later, when I saw Mr. Modi has reached there, and of course the pictures are beautiful, I really believe that India should take measures to build some hotels, build some internet connectivity, build some better adventure activities.
But all that takes time. What I find interesting in the posts that have been put out by all the actors is that next holiday in Maldives. But where will they stay in the Maldives? How will they get there? I don't think that's fully thought through at this moment.
I feel, you know what, once all actors, once all influencers start going there, so influencers means they have to influence people. And once the actor
but
or
Maldives also pays a lot of these influencers, Rohan. All those fancy pictures on Instagram, the influencers get money for it, boss.
Of course. You know what? Once we have, if we have.
Who's going to pay you in Lakshadweep? I spoke to the administrator. He said, "मेरे घर में बहुत जगह है, आप आओ यहाँ पे सो लेना."
I had spent a lot of money when I traveled to Maldives. I don't want to spend more now because the beauty which I've seen the Lakshadweep over the pictures on Google, I would really want to go there. अगर मुझे कुछ कम भी मिलता है in terms of the stay, I don't mind doing that. Okay. But I have to go and explore that place.
Bharti Chaturvedi, from the Prime Minister's trip onwards, now Salman Khan, Ranveer Singh, Varun Dhawan, next holiday, Maldives, chodo, Lakshadweep chalo. Now, as an environmentalist, when you're hearing all of this, are you getting really scared and worried? What will happen to poor old Lakshadweep?
No, I'm not worried. And the reason is that the way I see it, I think Lakshadweep is a metaphor. It's a symbol for traveling within our own country. It's not, exactly a mere it's not just ke sirf Lakshadweep chalo, right? It is still Lakshadweep chalo, nahi hoga to Andamans, nahi hoga to kuch aur. But there's a whole movement towards traveling to beautiful destinations within India. But as an environmentalist, I see it as a very big opportunity to actually implement large chunks of the Ministry of Tourism's sustainable policy of 2022. And that is actually quite the opposite of what some of your influencers are saying, because what they're really emphasizing is that you just can't have every place has its own carrying capacity. And the Lakshadweep, the islands are extremely fragile. I've been there, I've spent quite a bit of time there. They're very fragile, and there's some islands which you can literally walk in half an hour from one end to the other, even less. And so their carrying capacity, they're not made for tourism, whereas other parts are made for tourism.
No, but there are
And
similar. I've been both to the Maldives and to Lakshadweep.
yeah,
Even in the
sure. I
Maldives,
mean,
the islands
most
are
of
quite small, as is the case in
yeah,
Lakshadweep as well.
right. But the Maldives is in big trouble. I mean, apart from the fact that we're giving them trouble, they're also in environmental trouble. There's
Yeah.
huge problem with what they've done, building these resorts. They've managed to get, the way they've altered coastlines, they've dumped on them, they've changed the tides, they've put a lot of sand suddenly, vegetation has changed. I mean, so they're always making barriers so that there's not more erosion. And we know that climate change might take away both these islands. So, as I look at it, carrying capacity is a very fundamental thing. How much load can an island or any place for that matter take? This is not just about tourism, it's a very basic principle of survival. So, I think that we have to look at Lakshadweep, but it shouldn't be the only place. It has to have a very, very low bearing kind of
No,
tourism.
sure. So here's the point I buy. If Lakshadweep is a metaphor for wanting to travel within India, that's a fantastic idea. It's something that I've believed in for many years. We've been traveling extensively through our country and encouraging travel in our country. That is a superb idea. If Lakshadweep literally means everybody from Rohan to Poonam to Varun Dhawan to Amitabh Bachchan, Hardik Pandya actually descend on poor Lakshadweep, then all the fish are gone, the corals are gone.
I don't know if you know this, but the Andamans is actually doing a fabulous job in upgrading its tourism. So if they can make this sustainable and local people more than corporates get profits, then it's a fabulous livelihood. For every million odd rupees, manufacturing creates, I think, about 45 jobs. And I was reading somewhere that tourism creates 78.
So you have to get it just right. You can't go overboard. You have to have infrastructure, but you make it.
Got to do light infrastructure. Super.
Otherwise, it all starts looking like Juhu Chowpatty, and I have nothing against Juhu Chowpatty.
No,
but the
fine,
beach
but
is
we
just an
can't
example
also
of everything that's wrong. Okay, I want to go across to Ahmad Adib. Ahmad Adib has been the tourism minister of the Maldives, is the former vice president of Maldives. Adib Saab, welcome to India today. And I want to start up by asking you about the reactions that we're seeing in the Maldives to these ministers and the kind of outrageous comments they made about India, about Lakshadweep, and especially because so many people who are watching on India Today television this time have traveled to the Maldives and would have fantastic memories of their holiday and their time in the Maldives. And given the close ties between India and the Maldives, people are actually quite shocked by how your current government is looking at the relationship with an important ally.
Okay, thank you for having me here. As you said, this is something which should have not happened. And this activist from the ruling party who has become deputy ministers had racial comments and derogatory comments against the Prime Minister Modi and the people of India. So, and the government of Maldives should have taken more firm action promptly yesterday morning itself. And then do a public apology as well as reach out by the President of Maldives to Prime Minister Modi and sort out this full-blown diplomatic crisis. I think this is because of few handful of politicians, the whole Maldives is getting a lot of hate comments, a lot of anti-Maldives things are going on social media, which is understandable. So I would like to say this doesn't represent the sentiments of Maldivian people. The government should be more responsible, and I would say that they should make sure that it never happens again. So
no, but President Mohammad Mizu at this time is in China. He's got a 5-day visit there. He hasn't come to India yet. Usually Maldivian heads of state, when they get elected, have typically had India as their first port of call. That hasn't been the case. Here's a man and a government that very clearly is tilting pro-China and has arguably got elected on an anti-India agenda.
Yes, actually, the ruling party has they in the election also they started this anti-India sentiments, which was started by the former President Yamin. Now also there is a fallout between President Jammeh and this current party. There is still this anti-India sentiments in that party, which is very extreme and very unreasonable, I would say. And as you said,
Try and explain to our viewers, why is there at all? I mean, given how much India contributes to the economy of the Maldives, and Indian tourists are the number one country sending tourists to the Maldives, why is there an anti-India sentiment in the Maldives at all?
It is, I would say, that was a political thing that started as into India, but it was targeted to the previous government, which has a very good relationship with India. I think we went through COVID and all this crisis because India was there for us in every time of need. So as you said, this sentiment doesn't represent the Maldivian people, but it's a party with some extreme ultra-nationalistic agenda, which has produced this by their leader, former President Jammeh. They targeted this as a political way to attack the previous government, and even in election they spread a lot of misinformation, like there was thousands of Indian soldiers in Maldives, which is not true.
Ashok Sajana, what's the agenda of President Mohammad Mizu's visit to Beijing? What do you think he hopes to get out of it?
No, I think basically it is, you would recall that when Mohammad Yamin was in power before Ibrahim Soli, and at that time also Yamin had gone to China and they had signed an FTA, free trade agreement. So, and there were a number of, under the Belt and Road initiative, there have been a number of projects also in Maldives, setting that bridge from Malé up to from the capital city up to the airport to the other island. So there are a number of those, and then of course China, for its own purposes, would like to, they would dangle this carrot, and for their own purposes, they would like to ensnare Maldives so that they can have some sort of a presence there. Because China is expanding its footprint even in the Indian Ocean. We've seen how its spy submarines come to Sri Lankan ports. So if Maldives also gets indebted to China in a very big way, then of course they'll be able to utilize those ports. So that's why, Rahul, I was mentioning earlier that our relations with Maldives are not only trade. We export, of course, more than $600 million to them. It's not only tourism. Our relations are strategic and security and defense related also.
And there's so many Indian doctors and nurses who provide healthcare in the Maldives. So it's not just the tourists that we are sending. It's not just commerce. There's a lot of people-to-people ties.
No. Yeah, and it has been long-standing. So I think the Maldivians need to recognize that, need to realize that. And that's what I said, that once this government settles down, they will also realize that beyond a point, they cannot sort of, start rubbing India the wrong way. Here, of course, the way it has started with these three ministers, salutary action and very quick action has been taken against them. I think both the sides should really now look forward, try to mend relations, try to see where we can work together, where we can cooperate. India has huge investments also in Maldives, and we need to sort of, work it out with the current government so that we have normal working relations. The relations might not be as warm and cordial.
But the fact is that with most of India's neighbors, we don't seem to have the right kind of relationship. Whether it is a Nepal, a Sri Lanka, Bangladesh.
No, Rahul, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. I think our relations over the last 5, 8, 10 years, they have improved hugely. You mentioned Nepal first. Let me tell you, Rahul, that before Mr. Modi came to power and he went to Nepal, his first visit was in August 2014. The Indian Prime Minister had not visited that country for 17 years. When Mr. Modi went to Sri Lanka in 2015, the Indian Prime Minister had not gone to Sri Lanka for 32 years. So, I don't think we should make these statements off the cuff. I think we need to realize, we need to recognize, look at the manner in which India has gone and provided $4 billion worth of support and aid to Sri Lanka in last year, when it really had its back to the wall as far as its economy is concerned. Look at the manner, more than $8 billion of line of credit and grant to Bangladesh. So, these are relations that we are seeing a golden period in, in the ties with India. Look at the visit of Dr. Jaishankar to Nepal very recently. 10,000 megawatt of electricity Nepal is going to be providing to India. So I think our relations are doing well. Maybe, in terms of public communication, this government needs to be more proactive to tell the people as to what exactly is happening.
So I want to thank our guests for joining us.